Hey everyone, it's Nadia. Today we're drawing a realistic eye, breaking it down with an easy construction method and smooth shading. Grab your pencil and let's start. So first things first, here's our reference, let's observe it. We want to recognize its overall almond-like shape. Try to see only the two curves that form the almond shape. Don't consider the details inside of the eye. The best way to define any shape is to identify the main direction and angles. Kind of like finding the tangents in the geometry. You know those lines that just touch a curve in one point? Don't worry, this isn't a geometry class, so our lines don't have to be perfectly straight, and we also don't want to sketch with a bunch of short lines. Instead, try to make fewer lines, but more confident and precise. Let's start by observing the upper curve of the eye opening. I hold my arm straight, lock my elbow, and line up my pencil horizontally with the edge of the upper eyelid. What I notice is that the pencil touches the curve more on the right side, and the left slope is gentler. Now, using the horizontal reference line helps us really see those directions clearly. We'll use the same principle for the lower curve. When I line my pencil horizontally here, it touches closer to the left side, which means the left curve is steeper and the right one is softer. Now, I don't literally calculate all this while I draw. I'm just breaking it down for you to show how I think through the structure. Once you practice enough, it becomes automatic. Next, let's check the inner and outer corners of the eye. Using the same horizontal line, you can see if one corner sits higher or lower than the other. Now, let's check the proportions, the height compared to the width. Use your pencil as a simple measurement tool. Take the height of the eye, then see how many times that height fits into the length. 1 and 2. Let's check it again. 1, 2, and a little bit. No need for inches or centimeters, just your own measuring unit. Next, let's find out the upper eyelid fold. That line usually echoes the shape of the upper lid. I estimate the distance, it's roughly a half of the eye itself. And finally, let's indicate the lower eyelid. This area appears slightly darker because it turned away from the light. When the area just below it, the top of the cheek catches more light. So the line I want to draw here represents the edge where those two planes meet, the shadowed eyelid and the lighter cheek plane. Now think about the eyelids as a thin layer of the skin wrapped around the eyeball. They're not just lines, they have real thickness. The lower lid is more open, so you can clearly see that edge curving around the forearm. The upper lid also has thickness, but most of it partially hidden by the eyelashes, which sit right along the curved edge. You'll only see the lid's edge more clearly near the inner corner of the eye, where the lashes are thinner and the form turns towards the light. Okay, now we're ready to place the iris and the pupil. The iris is a circle, but remember, in a normal view like this, it's partially covered by the upper lid, so you'll never see the whole circle in the normal view. Let's use a little helper again. A straight vertical line through the center of the eye. You'll notice that the iris sits on the left half of the eye, with just a small portion of the white visible on the side here. Along the bottom, iris almost touches the lower eyelid, almost but not quite. That tiny gap is what makes it look natural. Now the pupil sits right in the center of the iris, so find the middle of the circle and place a smaller one for the pupil. At this point, you can also start hinting at a few details. A highlight on the iris, a little darker accent in the inner corner here, and maybe a few subtle values changes. Here's a subtle highlight, here's a little light reflection, here's a little change in value. And now, after we've done the most difficult part, which is constructing the eye, it's time for the fun part. Alright, so I'm starting to building up my values with a soft pencil. I got 2B. I begin with a light, even layer for shading across the eye and the area around it. Don't overthink this step, just keep your stroke soft and consistent. This first layer will represent the light and act as a foundation for building depth and contrast later on. Since there aren't any strong, bright highlights here, we can ignore the tiny ones we've got for now and focus on establishing an even base. I hold my pencil almost horizontally to the surface and make light, even movements, guiding the motion from my elbow rather than my wrist. Once I finish shading, I gently blend this first layer with a napkin to make it look smooth and cohesive. That's what gives the drawing a more realistic, polished appearance. Now I'm moving on the next layer of shading, this time focusing on the darker values, and I'm trying to not to touch the highlights this time. But honestly, if you do, no worries, it's totally fixable. I always keep my pencil sharp. Now for this step, I switch to a softer pencil, a 4B. Further, I will start adding shading to the eyelids and the areas around them. I take my time and build the brows gradually, constantly comparing what's lighter and what's darker, and adjusting as I go. As I continue, I'll switch between pencils. For light skin tones, I use a B or 2B and a 4B for the iris, pupil, eyelashes, and the shadows in the corner of the eye. Getting the value right is what really makes your drawing look realistic. One simple trick that helps a lot to achieve that is squinting. Yep, simply squint your eyes. When you squint at your reference, all the little details disappear and you can clearly see where the light and shadow actually are. Then do the same with the drawing. Compare the two. You'll quickly spot what needs a little more dark or a little more light. It's such a small thing, but it really trains your eye to see value relationships more accurately. Here I'm applying my second layer of blending to smooth out the tones and bring everything together. But a quick note, be careful not to overblend. Use a very light touch and don't rub the paper for too long. If you press too hard or blend too much, the paper surface can get clogged and then it becomes really hard to add new layers of shading. So instead, blend gently, then go back in with your pencil. Layer by layer, the drawing starts to gain depth and realism. Think of it like sculpting with graphite. Every soft blend and every new layer helps shape the form a little more. Here I'm working on the upper lid fold with a sharp pencil. Pay attention to its shape. It's dynamic and flexible, and it never has one thickness all the way across. What we're really drawing here isn't just a line, but the soft shadow where two forms meet, the eyelid and the area above it. So I shade around that line and softly merge that shading into the line. There is a very delicate rim of shadow between the eyelid and the area above. Now about the eyelashes. They are quite small on this eye, and even if they were longer, I wouldn't draw every single one. That would actually make the drawing look overworked. Instead, I just kind of create the impression of lashes. Some joined together, some simplified, enough to suggest their presence without overdoing it. Here's one thing to watch out for. Don't outline everything too hard. Even though in the beginning we started with the clear construction lines, by the end those outlines should melt into the shading. The eye doesn't really have black lines around it. What I'm doing here is building those edges through soft transitions by delicate shading. If you press too hard and leave a dark outline, the form instantly looks flat. Did you notice I'm shading different areas at the same time? Jumping a bit from one part to another? That's because I'm constantly comparing values. How light the whites of the eyes are compared to the lighter skin, how dark the corner shadow is compared to the iris, and so on. And yes, remember to squint. As I keep shading around the eyelids, this part isn't easy. The form of the lids isn't very clear or structured, and the shadows are subtle. Almost everything besides the iris looks just gray. The value differences are so slight that it can be tricky to judge them correctly. Make it a habit to compare constantly. Training your eye to see is what speeds up your improvement. In drawing, there are really two big secrets: learning to measure accurately and learning to see values. Those are the skills that came with observation. The rest, shading, blending, and special effects, are just technique. Here I'm still building up the darkest values and adding a few details in the iris, but I'm not obsessing over copying every little thing exactly. I just suggest some texture and variation to bring it to life. I only work carefully around the highlights. The edges there should stay crisp and contrasting so the eye looks bright and reflective. Okay, here's my little magic tool, the pen eraser. I love using it to lift out some highlights and bring a bit of sparkle back into the drawing. For a really precise tip, you can just cut the rubber end at a slight angle with a craft knife. It gives you much better control. Here I'm gently brightening a few spots on the eyelids, carefully lifting the graphite instead of rubbing. And just like that, the eye instantly looks more alive and realistic. I'll let the rest of the video play in speed mode so you can quickly follow along. If you want to try this practice yourself, grab the reference, the link is in the description. And don't forget to share your results in our artist community on Telegram. That link is down there too. That's all for today. Thanks for drawing with me and I'll see you in the next video.